start with Fidelity, and then we'll go into what ARK released too. So ARK last week and Fidelity this week both released reports on Bitcoin. And I guess we'll start with Fidelity. So Fidelity released a paper called Bitcoin First, in which the two co-authors, they're analysts for Fidelity Digital Assets, which is owned by Fidelity or is part of Fidelity, basically argue that Bitcoin should be treated separately from all their cryptocurrencies. And the paper is actually a really great, I don't know if you've had a chance to sit down and read the whole thing yet, but the paper is actually a really great, like partially technical, partially very easy to digest overview of Bitcoin and why it shouldn't be treated as crypto, right? You and I both know this. You talk to people, someone comes up to you and asks you about crypto and you say, well, I'm in Bitcoin. And they say, oh, yes, you are in crypto. Yeah, well, they're not exactly the same thing. So, yeah, well, they argue that Bitcoin is a superior monetary good, that it should be treated as such. And yeah, they also say that it's a great entry point for investors looking to add some exposure to the general cryptocurrency kind of area. And yeah, let's just jump into that. Did you get a chance to read the full paper or look over generally the things that were included?
Yeah, so I was able to look through it and thumb through it a little bit, and I agree with your point 100%. I think it was like super easy to digest. It's not too technical. They kind of do it in like a presentation type format, so it's not exactly like as intimidating as like here's a white paper, you know what I'm saying, to kind of like understand or anything like that. They broke it down very well, and I was honestly kind of surprised. I know, Fidelity is tried to get a spot Bitcoin ETF filed and things like that. But to be honest, I kind of pegged Fidelity and all these other companies to be more of like a general crypto realm instead of like differentiating like that. So I'm for one really encouraged by this. It shows that they're not only taking a deep dive into Bitcoin and I guess the greater crypto world and whatnot, but they're also, taking the time to deeply understand both the Bitcoin technology, the purpose behind Bitcoin, and the purpose behind like I guess the other shit coins too. So yeah, I definitely recommend it. I think if you want to get somebody to read it and kind of like onboard them that way and look over it, it's not as intimidating as like handing somebody the Bitcoin standard or something like that. It's a quick thing that you could thumb through in a couple minutes, and I think yeah, I really liked it, and I thought it was really good news. And yeah, I kind of agree with your point. This week there wasn't too much Bitcoin news compared to last week, but yeah, this thing here, definitely encouraging going forward. And Fidelity looks like they want to be a player in the Bitcoin realm, huh?
Yeah, the same two co-authors. So it's funny because I don't know how many people actually work for Fidelity Digital Assets, which is their blockchain specific group. But the same two co-authors had a section in their research roundup paper that was released a few weeks ago. I think it was mid-January they released it. And they were much more 1 foot in Bitcoin, 1 foot in cryptocurrency, talked a little bit about NFTs in that paper. And this one is specifically saying, they're not saying they're all in on Bitcoin, right? But they're saying that if you're going to do cryptocurrency, like Bitcoin should be treated separately. Bitcoin should be treated as a monetary network. It shouldn't be treated as anything else. And they actually compare it to Ethereum, which is the other reason I really like the paper. So if you got people, I've sent this to a few of my family members who just don't fully grasp that Bitcoin is this different entity and that you can't treat it. They read stuff about Ethereum or they read stuff about Solana, which we'll talk about in a few minutes with the hack that they had this week. And they think that all of that is the same as Bitcoin. And so this paper does a really great job at just separating it out, saying why they think it's the best, why they don't think anything will supersede it in the future. And yeah, I think this was an awesome paper, and it is really well done. It's so easy to read, and it's right there at that edge. Like a fifth grader is probably not going to understand it, but a high school student probably would understand this thing, right? Like it's not super complicated, but it still touches on the technical aspects of Bitcoin and how it makes it different, right? They talk about the decentralization. They talk about the hard-coded supply cap. They talk about incentive driven actions of miners and things like that. So it's right there on that edge of being a white paper versus like kind of a review paper. So I was really happy to see this.